Hey there, welcome back to my channel. As you can see, today's video is going to be a declutter. So we are going to be decluttering my face palettes. I got this video idea from Samatha March here on YouTube. I saw her recently do a face palette declutter, and I feel like it's been a minute since I've done one. And honestly, pulling all of these out, I realized how much I needed to declutter them. I knew I had a lot of them, but I did not realize I had this many. So in today's video, we are going to be going through them and picking and choosing which ones I'm going to keep and which ones I'm going to declutter. I do have a declutter playlist. I will link that one down below in case you guys are interested, but let's go ahead and get started. So I do want to apologize in advance for my fingernails. They are atrocious. I'm currently trying to learn how to do them myself, and it's been a learning experience. But this first palette I have right here is from Tattoo Junkie, and this is the Glow Light palette. Honestly, I've only tried this one out a few times, and it was okay. I won't say that I was super impressed with it. It wasn't anything awful or anything like that, but I haven't reached for it really since I tried it out. So those first few days I used it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass this one along. So next up, I have this palette from Becca. This is the Pre-Ski Glow palette. This one was limited edition. I believe it came out last holiday season, and I do really like this palette. I have like mixed feelings on keeping this or not because it was limited edition. I tend not to use it in too many tutorials, and since I do film so much, I feel like I don't really reach into this palette very often. Also, I have a ton of different other Becca face palettes in here that I enjoy so much. I do really like this one. I like the tones in it, but I think I'm actually going to get this one to my friend because I know she'd get use out of it. I love Becca's face palettes. They are my favorite, but I have so many here, and there's just other ones that I feel like aren't limited edition that I can use more than this one. Stellar Beauty, we have their Ombre palette. This one is just a 3-pan face palette. So you have a bronzer shade and then 2 different highlights. I really enjoy Stellar Beauty as a brand in general. I feel like they're very, very overlooked. You can find them at Sephora. I really, really like this palette. The highlights in it are absolutely stunning, especially like this pink one right here. It's so pretty. The bronzer works really well. I really, really like this one. I have another one from them that I'm gonna get to here in a minute, but I'm definitely keeping this one for sure. Okay, so up next I have this blush palette here, and this one is from Ofra. This one is called their Signature Blush Palette, and I got this one actually gifted to me from Ofra, and I was really excited about it because I have tried quite a few Ofra blushes before, and I do really, really like their formula. But this one I think is so hard and difficult to use because of the pan sizes in here. They're just so small, and my blush brushes don't really fit in here very well. I feel like I'm having to go in so many different ways to try and get enough product to distribute onto my face. So sadly, I am going to pass this along to someone else because I just don't find use out of it with the pans being so small. Next from Pür, we have their Sculptor palette, and I really, really like Pür's highlight. I think they have some of the best highlighters, but this palette I did get in a BoxyCharm, and I do like it, but I feel like the tones for me are just a little bit deep on my more fair skin tone. These bronzers here, I can use this top one here, but it's even still pretty dark on me. I do really like this highlighter. This is the Originator highlighter, and I think it's so pretty. This one even is a little bit too dark. I think this would be suited on someone with a deeper skin complexion because for me, I can only really use this highlight and then this bronzer if I use it very lightly. So I think I'm gonna actually get rid of this one. Probably my most used face palette and one of my favorites is my Tarte Pro Glow. You can tell that mine is definitely gonna look well loved. This is probably, like I said, my most used face palette. I reach into this one all the time. I absolutely love this. If you're ever looking for a face palette that I feel like you'll get the most use out of, this is the one that I recommend to people. So the shade Sculpt is my favorite for bronzing and contouring. You also have a cream contour in here, and then you have all of these really pretty highlights. To be honest with you, I only really use these 2 highlights right here. You can tell that that one's kind of gotten a deep hit in there because I really like the shade. These 2 are a little bit deep for me, so I don't use them as much, but I love this palette in general. The formula is so, so nice. I don't really love the packaging. I feel like it's a bit weird with like the mirrors on the side. I don't really like that, but I do love this palette. And then another Tarte palette that I have, this one is called their Skin Twinkle. This is the volume 2, and this one is actually just a highlighting palette. So in here you get 4 different highlights. I do really like the formula of Tarte's highlights. I like that this one has a mirror, and I do use these 2 shades right here. You have the Daylight and Skylight shade. These 2 are a little bit deep for me, but I really love these 2. I've definitely made a dent in them, and I like this palette, so I'm gonna continue to use this one. All right, so up next, this one is from Carity. This is one of their blush bombs. This one is in Boom Berry, and I have quite a few of these. This is one of the ones, I think I have 3 here in total, and this is one of the ones that I wasn't loving the color combination here. I did test it out, but I just think I don't really reach for this bright of blushes in my collection, and then this highlight was a little bit deep on me, so I'm gonna actually pass this one along as well. This one here is one of my newer face palettes. This one is from Kevyn Aucoin. This is the contour book. This is the volume 3. I love their sculpting shades. I feel like they are so, so good, especially the sculpting light shade. It's my favorite. And then in this one, you have like this little ombre blush. You have a couple different highlights in here. I do really, really like this one. I am still kind of testing it out, but I think that I definitely want to keep it in my collection. I also have right here the Contour 2 book, and this was like my holy grail for so long. I love this one as well. So in here you have the same like sculpting shade, and then you have a cream contour in this one, and then a couple other highlights, and then you have eye shades in this one as well. So this is kind of a nice palette just to travel with. I took this a lot with me traveling because I feel like you do get the contour shades, you get the eye shades as well. I think I'm gonna hold on to both of them because I'm honestly afraid of running out of this shade right here because I love it that much. It's in both palettes, but I am going to be that person and carry both of them because I feel like I need that shade in my life. So up next, this one is from Stassi. This is their Barbados palette, and this is one of their blush palettes, and this was the one, they came out with 2 different blush palettes, and I really, really like the formula of these. This was the one that I was kind of like, am I gonna get used out of that? And I opened it and I started using it, and I thought it was really fun, but I just didn't get much use out of this. I do think it's geared more towards deeper skin tones, and I kind of thought it would be fun to like play around with these bright blushes, but for me, I think that this palette is just a bit unwearable. I was using them on my eyes, but I don't need to keep it in my collection just for that. So this one here is the Bahamas one, and this is the one that I do get more use out of. I said I really like this formula. I do really like it. I do have a coupon code with Stassi if you want to try out these blush palettes. I do highly recommend them. I think they are great. The code is just makeupmolly, but I really, really like the blushes. I feel like they perform really nicely. They're very pigmented. They glide on very smoothly. I just don't think that the other palette was a good match for me, but this one I'm definitely going to hold on to. Okay, I have another face palette here from Becca. This was a part of their Bejeweled collection or their Jewel collection. This one is called the Ocean Jewels palette. This was something different for Becca. It's kind of more of like an iridescent palette, and I don't really reach for that type of highlight very often. I do think that this palette was nice. I think it's a great formula and everything, but I don't really reach for these bright of like iridescent highlights like I was saying. I think I have another palette that I'm going to keep that has some fun colors in it, so I am actually going to pass this one along. We have the Too Faced. This is their Natural Face palette, and I do really like this one. I don't love it as much as I feel like other people do. I like it, but I'm not in love with it. I've heard so many people just like rave about this palette, and I do want to keep it in my collection because it's the only like face palette that I do have from Too Faced, but it's just, I don't know, there's something about the tones on my skin tone that I don't necessarily love. I think that the bronzer's a little bit deep for me, both of them, and the blushes are really pretty, the highlights are pretty. I just don't know, I don't reach into this as much as everyone else does, and I just don't love it as much as everyone else does, but I do want to keep it in my collection. I want to continue to use it. I have used it quite a bit of times, so it's not one that I'm not using. I don't know, I guess I'm not in the hype group with this one. I think it's okay, but I don't think it's amazing. A palette I do think is amazing though is this Evolution palette or the Evolution palette from Pür. I love this little guy. This is one of my favorite highlighting palettes that I have, and I know looking at it, it just looks really underwhelming. It doesn't look like it's gonna be anything special, but this one is so good, I promise you. You have 3 different highlight shades in here, and this middle one is so fun. It's just very different. It's like a marbled one. All 3 of these look amazing. They are so blinding. Mix them. I like to mix these 2 together. Looks so good. And it's so tiny. It's such a small palette. It's very compact. I like this for travel. It's just such a good little palette. It's very affordable too. I think I want to say it's under $20. I think it's like $15 or something for the 3 highlights. So definitely check out this one from Pür if you've never tried it, or if you haven't tried their highlights, I highly recommend them. Okay, so up next we have the Strobe and Grow palette. This one is from Profusion, and Profusion is an affordable brand. You can find them at Target. I really like their highlights. I think that they're really nice. They're nothing crazy. They're not going to be like the most blinding highlight you're ever going to use, but this is a $10 palette and you get so many different highlights in here. I think that once you build them up, they're really, really nice on the face. I don't, however, want to keep this palette in my collection just because it is so large. I have trouble storing it, and I find myself not really reaching for it because it is such a large palette. So I do have a few other palettes here I think that have some Profusion highlights in them, so I'm going to hold on to those palettes and actually give this one to a friend. From Sleek Makeup, I have their Distorted Dreams palette, and this is another one that just kind of has those iridescent highlights in that I don't really reach for very often. It does have also some cream highlights, and I don't really use cream highlights very often either. If you guys want to see like a separate video doing like a cream highlight declutter, I have so many that I just don't reach for. I can definitely do that, but I'm going to actually get rid of this palette. I do have this other one, however, from Sleek Makeup. This one is their Solace palette, and I really, really like this one. So in this one, you have 3 different powder highlights, and then you just have have the one cream highlight. So I mostly reach into these two shades right here. This one's also really pretty as well. Back in the day, Jaclyn Hill used to talk about this palette so much. That is the reason I ended up buying it. And I do really, really like it. I need to reach into it more often. It's been a minute since I've used it, but I am gonna hold on to this one. This is a newer palette to my collection. This one is called the Shimmer and Strobe palette from Flower Beauty. I got this one based upon a ton of people's recommendations. I've heard a lot of people recommend this palette. I have not been disappointed. I really, really like it. This is such a good highlighting palette. All three of these shades are really, really nice. So this has definitely been a standout product for me. I really like it. Up next, I do want to go ahead and declutter this palette here. This was the new Physicians Formula and Casey Holmes collaboration. And if you guys didn't see, I did put up a full review on this. I'll try to link it down below. I did like the eyeshadows in here. I thought they performed nicely. I also liked these two here. The highlight was just so glittery. I just didn't love it on my skin. And I don't know, I just don't really need this large of a palette in my collection because, like I said, I was having trouble storing the other one, and this one is even larger than that one. So I'm gonna take out the fragrance and for sure keep that. And I'm probably gonna pass along the rest. I didn't really love the lip color in here. You guys will see that in the video. And like I said, I might maybe even depot these just so I can have them in my collection. Some Physicians Formula like butter eyeshadows because I still like the formula of these. And I don't know, I just don't think that I need the rest of the face colors in this large of a box. All right, so we have the Anastasia Aurora palette. This used to be my vibes. When I said I didn't use iridescent highlights, there was a point where I was using these nonstop. This was the palette that I was reaching into. I do still really like this one, and I think that this is the only like iridescent palette I am gonna keep, just in case I ever want like a fun, I don't know, like a fun colored highlight and I need it for a look. I do wanna still have this in my collection because I do like the formula, but I don't need a ton of iridescent highlights, so I think I am gonna keep this one, and then if I have any other ones, I'm gonna get rid of those. So I do have a few more blush bombs here from Carity. So I have the Pow Pink, and this one is really pretty. It has like a more pinky highlight, and then two blushes that are really, really nice and very wearable on me. I know I wanna keep this one, and this is the one I'm kind of on the fence about. This is the Coral Kaboom, and I do really like the highlight in here, but I don't really reach for like orangey blushes too often, and I think I have a few like in other palettes that I've been keeping. So I actually think I'm gonna get rid of this one and just hold on to this one here. I do really like the formula of these, but I'm not a huge fan, like I said, of the orangey blushes, so I just need to keep the ones that I know I'm gonna use. We have the Starlight Sparkle palette. This one is from Lancome. This came out over the holiday season. I know that this was limited edition, so I'm not sure if it's still available. I did really like the formula of it though. This was my first time trying Lancome highlighters, and I thought that this palette in particular was really pretty, very blinding. All three of the shades work really well for my skin tone, so I am gonna keep this one just so I have it for reference. Even knowing it is limited edition, I've still been reaching for it. So we have another one of the Butter Collection palettes, and this one again was limited edition, and this was the box set that they came out with actually first. I might see if I can't like depan these. I don't know if I'll be able to. I already own the Butter Bronzer and also the Butter Blush that is right here. I have those in singles. So it'd really just be for these highlights, and I did really like them, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm even gonna declutter them. I might just give this to my friend. Again, I just don't love the bulky packaging. Like I get it, it's for holidays and everything, but when you actually go to store it and like reaching into it daily, I just don't think it's very practical. So up next I have this one from Motive, and this is their 3-in-1 contour and bronze and highlighting palette. And I actually had this one back in the day, and I actually decluttered it, and then they sent it to me again, and I was like, wait, what happened to that palette? I already had it, and I kind of missed it in my collection. So I am gonna keep this one. It has really nice bronzer shades in here. I don't really reach for this one as much, the highlighting powder, but I do really like the tones of this. It kind of reminds me of that Kevyn Aucoin palette that I really like the tones of the bronzers in there. So I'm gonna keep this one. I like how small it is. I like how compact it is as well. So I have this one from MAC, and this is their Studio Fix palette. I really, really like this one. I think it's a really good contouring palette. You have a bunch of different contour shades, and then you have some sculpting shades, and I actually do use these ones here. I like using this one for like the under eye area, and I also like using this one to just sculpt out my face, like do my baking with. I think that this is a really nice palette. I think it would be really great in people's kits as well. Like if you are a freelance artist, I think that this would be a really great one to add to your makeup kit. Okay, so up next I have the Chloe and Malika collab. So this one is the With Love by Chloe palette. One of my favorite palettes so far I've tried this year. I love, love, love this. I reach into it all the time. The face colors are so good in it. The blushes are great. The highlighter's great in here. I highly, highly recommend this palette. Like I said, it's probably gonna be in my 2018 favorites because I have not been able to put this one down. And then we have the other one. So this one is Malika's palette. And I do like this one, but this one is geared again more towards like deeper skin tones. And I did want to try it out and test it out so I could review it for you guys. But I think I'm gonna pass this along to a friend who would fit a little bit better because I really haven't reached too much into this one. The bronzer is a little bit deep on me. The blushes I can still make work, but I don't think that they're necessary to keep just as a blush palette. And then I have this cream contour palette from Iconic London. I don't really have many cream contour palettes in my collection. This is the only one I have, and then the Kevyn Aucoin I think has one, and then the Tarte has like one shade in it. I do want to keep this just so I have some lighter cream contours in case I ever want to do that. I once upon a time was really into it, so you can see that it's definitely used up. But since this is my only cream contour, I think I'm just going to keep this one just in case I ever need a palette for that. So I have this one up next from Pixi, and this one is the Strobe Bronze palette. I do really like this one. It's not a favorite palette for me. I really, really like the highlighter shades in it. I think that they're really great. The bronzers, I feel like I don't know, like I like them, but they're again not a favorite. I have so many face palettes that I'm keeping at this point that I can't possibly keep all of them. And if I'm picking the ones that I use the most, I don't think I've reached into this one in quite some time, so I am gonna get rid of this one. I have the Hyper Real Glow palettes from MAC, and I love these little palettes. So we have here this one, I can't remember which one. There's like a rose one, which is this one here, and then we also have the golden one. I know that they recently came out with new colors of these. I love the highlights in here. They are so pigmented. I definitely get a lot of use out of these. So I think it's the Get Glowing and then the rosy one. I hate how they have like this here. I wish that they just had the names on them, but I really, really like both of these, so I am going to keep both. Okay, we're starting to dwindle down here. The next one is from Profusion. This is their Pro Conceal Contour. This is a really great set because you do have the highlights in here, you have the contour shades, and then you also have like some color correctors in here, and then the brushes. I just don't really use color correctors too often, and this one does have a lot of cream products in it, so I guess I could have kept this one instead of the Iconic London. But it is kind of bulky. Like you can see, it's kind of a bulky palette. It's pretty large. So I'm actually gonna get rid of this one. From Gerard Cosmetics, this is the Honeymoon Scarlet palette. I don't really own a lot from Gerard Cosmetics. I do really like this palette. I think it's really nice. I use these shades as blushes, or I use this one sometimes as a bronzer. I do wanna keep it just because I don't have a lot from the brands and I do wanna reference it. But I definitely need to reach for this one more often because it's been a minute since I've used it. Okay, so I have a few palettes here that are very similar. So we have the Everglow from Gadi. I've recently been testing this one out, and I do really, really like the formula of this one. So I know I want to hold on to it because I have been using it, but I also have this one from Maxi and Mia, and this is the Spotlight palette. And this one I do like. I feel like it's very similar to this one here from Gadi. I think these two shades right here are very similar to the one in here. So I think I'm gonna give this one to my friend. I did really like the formula of this. I thought it was really nice, but I really haven't reached into it that much. And knowing that I have this palette here that is so similar, I don't think I need both of them. Okay, so here we have this one from IBY Beauty. This is the Radiant Glow palette, and here's what it looks like. I do really like the formula of this. I think it's nice. This is a newer brand to me. I really haven't tried too much from them. I don't love the packaging on this one. It's very bulky, it's large, but I can make do with it. I do want to keep it in my collection just because I don't have a lot from the brands, and I like to kind of keep some things from each brand. That way I have things to reference. So I am going to keep this one. But if I don't reach for it within the next few months here, I'll go ahead and declutter it because I don't think I've used it in quite some time. Then we have this Glow Getter palette. This one is from Private Society Cosmetics. I recently tried this one out as well. If you guys want to check that video out, I will have it linked down below. And I do like this palette. I thought that the highlights performed nicely in here, but it is a very large palette. And honestly, if I'm looking at this like realistically, I'm only probably going to use like this one and this one. The rest of them just aren't really my highlighting vibes necessarily. I think that this would be a better palette if you just don't have a large highlighting collection and you kind of want some variety. For me, having such a large collection, I don't think I need such a large highlighting palette in my collection. So I'm going to give this one to my friend because I know she would really like it. From Becca, I have the Be a Light palette. I really liked this one. So you have in here the light fusing powder. So these are supposed to like blur the skin. And then you have a blush and a bronzer in here. I did really like this palette. It kind of, everyone says, reminds them of the Hourglass palettes. I've never purchased one of those. It's the same as that, but I do really like this one. I haven't reached for it in a while, but I definitely want to pick it up. Maybe I'll put it in my desk so I can use it more this month. One of my most used palettes here. This one is from Tarte. This is the Cheek to Chic palette. I love this little guy. I like it because it's so compact. It's very small, but you have 6 different shades in here. You have blush shades and then bronzers, and then you have this highlight. The highlight in here isn't the most blinding highlight. You definitely have to build it up. But the blushes and the contour shades are so good. They blend out really nicely on the skin. You can apply a lot and a little, and it doesn't look like it's overpowering. I definitely like it. I like the blush formula as well. This is a great palette from Tarte. So up next from Ofra, I have the Glow Up palette. So inside of here, you have a bunch of their different highlighter shades. So the thing with this palette is I actually feel like I want to declutter it because I already own 3 of these highlights. I don't have Star Island though, and I really, really like Star Island. So it's like I want to hold on to this palette, but really I have these other ones in full sizes. So I don't know. I might see if I can. It looks like I can actually just like take this pan out, like take this one out. So maybe I'll do that and just kind of put that one on its own and just pass this one along. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm gonna keep it for now and maybe I'll depot them. I do really want to keep that shade Star Island. I think it's really pretty. We have this highlighting contour palette from Profusion, and I do like this one. So in here you have the contour shades and then also a highlight in here and the highlighting shades. So for this one though, I don't know if I need it. The bronzer like is a little bit deep on me. I do really like it, but with everything else I've kept, I feel like I need to declutter a few more, so I'm actually gonna declutter this one. All right, so we are getting close. We only got 4 more left, so we have this up next again from Profusion. This is the Blush and Glow 2 palette. So for this one, I like the formula of their blushes, and I have another palette. Actually, I don't think I even put it in here from Profusion that I like. And I like this one, but I don't really get a lot of use out of it. I think that these shades are, again, a little deep for me. So I am gonna pass this one along. I don't think I kept any Profusion palettes. That's kind of a bummer because I do really like the formula on them, but I think just like the variety that they have in it, just, I don't know. I guess it isn't for me right now because I decluttered all of them. Up next, I have this one from Charlotte Tilbury. I really like this palette. This one is called their Film Star Bronze and Glow. In here you have a highlighting shade and then also a bronzing shade. I really enjoyed this one. I think the bronzer is really nice in here and the highlight's pretty stunning. I like how small it is. I like how compact it is. It has really pretty packaging as well. And then we just have 2 more here. So we have this one from ColourPop. This is the Step Right Up, and inside of here you have a bronzer shade and a highlight. This one, I don't know, like I kind of have mixed feelings about this one. It's not my favorite highlight, and it's honestly not even my favorite bronzer. Actually, you know what? I am gonna get rid of this one. I was kind of like, oh, I should keep it. I don't have a ton from ColourPop, but I don't think I need this one. Like I said, I don't reach for it. It's not my favorite, so I'm gonna get rid of that one. And then we just have this last one here from Stellar Beauty. And I know I said I was only gonna keep the Anastasia one, but I don't know. There's something about this one too that I really like. It has this fun purple shade in here. What the heck? I did good. I'm gonna keep this one as well. So here's a quick overview of the ones that I did decide to keep. Honestly, this is probably too many. I kept 25. It's definitely a lot, but I feel like a lot of these palettes I do reach into quite often. A few of them I do want to look back at in a couple months and see if I want to declutter some more of them, but these are all the ones I am keeping for now. Here is an overview of the ones that I decided to declutter. So there are 20 palettes I'm decluttering and I'm keeping 25. I wanted to actually declutter more palettes than I'm keeping, but we're pretty even, only 5 off. I don't feel like that's that bad, and I feel really good about getting rid of a lot of these palettes. They're definitely taking up a lot of room in my collection. I hope you guys did enjoy this declutter. I will have my declutter playlist linked down below, like I said, if you guys want to check that out, see some other declutters that I've done. Also comment down below any other declutter ideas you guys have, you want to see from me. Give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Also, don't forget to subscribe before you go, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, friends.